Hello. I have not released a video here in a very long time because I've been super busy reviewing for Stereophile and super busy going to Vienna and then editing videos that I shot at the Vienna show and writing show reports from the Vienna show and all of that. But I am not doing that right now. I'm on vacation with the family at our summer home. I figured I'll record some videos. And I actually recorded this series of videos. This is a series because they get too long otherwise. I actually recorded it twice, but every time I sat down to edit, I realized there's a lot more to say. But at some point, I just gotta decide that enough's enough. But a lot has happened, especially in the last week, that sort of made me add a whole prequel episode, a whole other episode. And this is that episode, and I figured I'll just re-record everything. So welcome to the topic at hand, trusting Hifi reviewers. Well, having turned myself into a reviewer, I feel like I should make it clear where I stand on a few topics. And I am relatively new to reviewing. Some people have done this for as long as I've been alive, so I'm not like coming at this from some position of authority. This is just me sharing my perspectives and opinions, and those are of course subject to change. So with that caveat aside, I'm gonna scroll in my notes. I have notes. I don't have a teleprompter out here in the Baltic Sea archipelago, but I do have some notes so that I say the right things in the right way and in the right order. But yeah, so trusting reviews. There's always been and will forever be people that categorically, chronically distrust reviews because they distrust reviewers. They think that all of them are crooked, basically. And so yeah, these people have always been around, they always will be around, so why am I bothering? Well, I think there's been like a perfect storm brewing recently. Both recently in like the last week, but also recently in this sort of social media age, and with everyone carrying like a 4K camera in their pocket, we could all set up a YouTube channel and crown ourselves reviewers like I have on this channel. We could all set up websites and claim that we are a reviewer, and we can write reviews or record video reviews and thus be a reviewer. Like there's no barrier of entry to this. And that has no like editorial control. No one's gonna look at your script and, red pencil anything. There's no like inherited guidelines and principles carried down through the decades of a publication. There's no policing, none of that. It's just dudes with keyboards winging it. And some will wing it with looser morals than others. And in the sort of cutthroat competition for clicks and views, some are going to overstep some boundaries a bit more willingly than others. So that's like the social media thing, the competition for clicks and views, the low barrier of entry for crowning yourself a reviewer, but then also all of this conspiratorial thinking, all this territorial pissing, all of this tribalism and bullshit and suspicion that's brewing online is in a really nasty sort of symbiosis with those other things to create a environment where I think there's a reason to talk about trust. There's a reason to add this sort of prequel episode to this. And so what I mean is that some people think that all reviewers are only in it for the money. Like what money is what I'd ask, but only in it for the money, or deliberately sort of dishonest, or that all reviewers are fools, or that we're all of these things combined somehow. And that thus any opinions reviewers or express are inherently untrustable and useless. You'll hear prominent people online talking about this. And sort of again and again asserting that position, that reviewers are useless, like it's impossible to trust anything they say categorically. And yeah, some do overstep boundaries. Some do deceive. Some are dishonest. Some are straight up crooks. But isn't that always the case everywhere? It's just that we have more reviewers now, that there's no barrier of entry. I think the majority, of course, of legacy media, not everyone, of course not everyone, but the majority of legacy media reviewers are inherently in it for the right reasons and have their heart in the right place. And I actually think that is also true for this new generation of self-made reviewers, like how I started very recently. I think most of us are doing this because of the passion for the hobby, the passion for music, the passion for sound. It's just that not everyone are able to stick to that, because as many find out, it's really, really hard to make any money off of reviewing. So what ends up happening is you might go, well, everyone else seems to be doing well, what am I doing wrong? And then you start to maybe loosen up your moral stance a little bit, or, you know, or it might be just be that, well, everyone is saying it's all crooked. Everyone is saying everyone is bought. Everyone is saying, you know, there's shady deals everywhere. I'm not getting any shady deals. Should I pursue them in order to get them? Why should I be, you know, left behind? Why should I stand here empty-handed if, you know, everyone else is getting their pockets stuffed in this industry? And, you know, it's off to the races from there on. So I'll talk more about sort of the incentives for reviewers in a separate video, but it obviously carries into this whole trust issue. But so what do I mean by trust? I don't think you should default to accepting anyone's opinion or subjective experience, because that's what this is, as universal, infallible truth. Of course you should not do that, right? And I don't think anyone's arguing that you should do that. Don't be so black and white. So what should you trust then? Well, I think you should trust or seek to find reviewers whom you can trust in terms of their judgment and their intentions, not necessarily their personal experience, because how do you even trust that? You can trust that they are trying to be truthful, but that doesn't mean you need to trust that what they experienced is what you will experience. Is that even the argument here? I don't know. But since reviewers are human, except for the AI slop stuff that you should boycott at any opportunity, we are fallible. Humans are fallible. Reviewers are mostly human, and thus we make mistakes, we have biases. I'll talk more about biases in a different video, by the way, because that's definitely a favorite topic among the hi-fi critics. But like, if this reality of human nature, the fallibility, is that a word, of human kind, of inherent to human nature, means that you categorically dismiss all reviews as untrustable, I think you have painted yourself into a conspiratorial corner that benefits no one. And it's honestly not us reviewers' responsibility to get you out of that corner. You put yourself there. You made choices that put you in a position where you trust nothing. And you gain nothing from doing so, is my argument. So what's the option then? What is the stance? What is the perspective you could take on this that is meaningful? Well, I'm absolutely not saying that you should abandon critical thinking and trust everyone blindly. I hope I made that clear. But if you can't perceive the nuanced differences across like publications or across individual reviewers, if you can't do any sort of basic character judgment at all, you would benefit from lowering your guard a little bit, and that is your job to do. And you can do that without becoming naive, without becoming foolish, without abandoning the ability to read or watch with a critical eye. You can still do all of that without being so goddamn suspicious the whole time. There's so much great like commentary and insight and like knowledge sharing in well-crafted hi-fi reviews that honestly you don't want to miss out on that. Like, it's good stuff, it's fun, you learn, but you don't need to take it as gospel to learn from it. You can filter as you see fit, but if you dismiss it outright at the outset, you have nothing to filter. There's not going to be any golden nuggets for you to find because you've abandoned the search, basically. So I'm not following my script at all, by the way. I'm like looking at my phone, but I'm apparently not reading what I've written. But so I recommend that you don't default to distrust, that you don't default to the assumption that any given review is sheer deceit. But that doesn't mean I'm arguing for blind trust either. I hope I've made that clear. Not everything said or written is, whole grain, organic, free range, unassailable truth. Of course not. Trust is something built and earned over time. It is not a switch you flip on as a default setting necessarily. So keep reading and watching, and you will gradually assemble your own sort of idea of who deserves your personal trust, or at least who deserves your eyeballs, because you can derive value through your eyeballs without necessarily trusting. Us reviewers are all individuals, and some of us are going to be more on your wavelength than others. And some reviewers I trust, or the veracity of what they're saying, or the sort of applicability of what they're saying relative to my experience and my preferences. I trust more with some and less with others, but that doesn't mean that I can't derive value and entertainment and knowledge from the ones that I trust a little less. So, like I said at the start, I've divided this topic into a lot of different videos because it gets way too long otherwise. And if this particular one provided any sort of value or entertainment to you, I'm not asking for money, just a little click on the thumbs up. If you can spare one of those, I'd be happy. Subscribe if you want or don't. Anyway, enough for this one. I'm gonna go in. It's 11 p.m. See ya.